Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we're getting down and dirty. We are getting to business. We are gonna get some reading done and I'm very excited. I have recently tied up some loose ends in my reading journey. I feel like I was in the middle of a lot of really long books and I feel like I finally have finished all of those books, which I'm very excited about. However, I can't really decide what I'm gonna read next. So what other way to decide what I'm gonna read next other than put it up to a vote? I feel like that's kind of the answer for a person as indecisive as me. So actually at the very beginning of this week, it was not the beginning of this week, it was literally 2 days ago. 2 days ago, the poll ended yesterday and I started reading a book. There we go. So I've been chit-chatting about some of my books and I have a pile going. Come to me. Book at the bottom of the stack. Oh, that's not even the book that I want. Where? Oh, because I dropped it earlier. So, I've been reading a lot of fantasy romance lately. If you haven't seen my recent reading fantasy romance that were highly anticipated vlog, I will link that down below. I had so much fun making that and I also just had so much fun reading a bunch of highly anticipated indie fanros. However, I have read so much fantasy in the last pretty much the whole year, honestly. I felt like it was time to read some romance and I couldn't quite decide which. So, I put it up to a poll between Mile High and Done and Dusted. I also really wanted to read Magnolia Park, so I just put all three up in a poll. These two were definitely the winners. However, out of all of them, Done and Dusted won in a big fat way. So I read Done and Dusted, and then as soon as I finished this at like 10:30 last night, I picked up The Right Move and proceeded to read it all in one sitting. So I stayed up until like 6 a.m. this morning, but it's cool. I had such a big win from both of these. I'm obsessed. I love both of these books so much. I think if I had to pick between the two of my favorites, I think I would pick The Right Move just because I feel like you get more out of this book than you do from this one. This one's just like fun, happy, cute, fun times. Cowboy romance. This one's a lot more emotional and has a lot more depth to it, which I appreciated. However, like they were both really good just depending on like what you were looking for, and I couldn't decide what I was looking for, so the fact that somebody else voted and picked it for me was great. So I'll post the results of the poll here, and I was surprised by these results in the sense that like Magnolia Parks was not winning whatsoever. Interesting. But I kind of figured in between Done and Dusted and The Right Move, it was going to be a bit closer than it was. And I wonder if it was because Magnolia Parks was also in the running for this particular poll. However, Done and Dusted was winning the whole time. Like it won from the very get-go, and I figured that was going to be what I started to read, and it was still winning and it continued to win. So I picked it up and I had such a great time. Part of it was because I was just so in a romance mood. Part of it because I love cowboy romance. The other part of it was just a fun book. I liked it a lot. I loved it. If you're looking for a book that honestly, I was surprised with how fast it read. It was 340. Oh, not even. They have the excerpt from Swift and Saddle that's coming out very, very soon, and I'm so excited. Oh, no, not even. Hold on. There's also a Q&A in here. Where does this book end? 321. It's a short book. It was quick and easy, and I was going to say Swift, but that's not even this book. This one is Done and Dusted anyways. Moving on. I have had Done and Dusted on my TBR for, as you can... I think it's so funny that like this just happens to be where I film and my Elsie Silver books are front and center, at least front to the side, 24/7, because they're just my whole personality. Apart from, I've got to diversify myself. I'm like, Mariana Zapata and Elsie Silver, I love them, but like there are other things out there, right? How about other cowboy romances out there? Because this is out there and I loved it. Luke is everything. Well, I'm not gonna say he's everything. This is a 4-star to me. It wasn't a 5-star. However, it was a lot of things. Not everything, but a lot of things. And I think it's because childhood best friend or like childhood friends or like second chance scenarios, it's not my favorite. That's kind of this. Emmy is a barrel racer. She comes back home. I do love the element of like coming back home and like returning and finding yourself and all of those good things. She returns home and happens to run into her older brother's best friend. We love to see it. But they grew up together, but she comes to find out that she never really knew him, and also the version of him that she did know has grown up. If you get to the very end, she describes Luke as if Tim Riggins from Friday Night Lights washed his hair and grew up. and I'm here. Like, I am here for it. This is totally the most optimal like book slump book because it goes so fast and it's just quick and easy. You move on. It's emotional, but it's not like heavy emotional. I don't feel like there's as much emotion to it, but I definitely did feel connected. I love these two characters. You have the whole like forbidden thing. Emmy's older brother Gus is best friends with Luke, and Gus is very, very protective. And everybody knows that. And so they're kind of like, they're not sneaking around, but they're not. He's always been her older brother's best friend, the older brother that likes to tease her. And like, he's always been that to her. So getting to see her relearn who this character was and find an interest in this male main character, I enjoyed. That's my thoughts on Done and Dusted. I feel like if I hadn't have immediately read the next book after this, it would definitely be a 4.5, but I think I'm gonna go with like 4.25. Regardless, I liked it a lot and it was fun, and I think that there's so much mental health representation in here. Comparing these, like Chestnut Springs is definitely your more small town cowboy romance. Gold Rush Ranch is definitely your horse girl cowboy romance. This is like your neon light barroom cowboy romance. Anyways, loved it. You should give it a go. But this book very clearly won the poll, and it was 10:30 last night and I was still in the mood to read something, so I went ahead and moved into The Right Move. Wow. I wasn't expecting to like this because I've never been like a big basketball fan. Of all of the sports, I don't feel like basketball players are like the hottest to me. I'm 5 feet tall. I don't feel like a man just being tall really does it for me personally. Which is, I feel like that's a whole other conversation in terms of like what you find attractive and what you then find in books that you enjoy. We're not having that conversation at this moment. However, I wasn't really convinced that a basketball player was going to be like top tier for me. Ryan Shea. I love everything about this man. Every single thing about this man. Everything about this man. I love him. He's got the whole like quiet love, acts of service, is a caretaker, but like also has emotions, but also is very protective. I love a protective main character. I am obsessed with forced proximity, and you get that both in terms of the roommates, but then also there's a fake dating element. I know a lot of people were reading this back whenever Caught Up was releasing, and a lot of people had a lot of things to say about Ryan Shea, and I had a lot of expectations about Ryan Shea. They were all successfully met. I am obsessed. I'm obsessed. And that could kind of stand alone for its own review. So I read Mile High back in December and I loved Xander. I can definitely see how he rubs people the wrong way, and I can see how people don't like him as a character. He's very much so like the playboy diva. He kind of can be. He's kind of that guy, and he knows he's that guy, so he's just gonna be that guy until he meets Stevie, and then everything changes. But I know that a lot of people don't really get past the fact that he was that guy. People either love this book or they hate it, and I feel like both of those opinions are valid for different reasons. I did love it. He's very much so, if you think about like Travis Kelce, in my head, Xander's is basically Travis Kelce. He's just kind of a diva, but we all know and love him anyways. So ever since I read Mile High, I knew that people always had talked about The Right Move being better, and so I was just so excited, and I could not get this book out of my head whatsoever. I sat down at like 10:30. I proceeded to stay up until 6 a.m. reading it. I finally fell asleep, and then I had an hour left, and I finished the hour this morning. It's currently like 1:33. The fact that it's Saturday and I have already finished 2 books this weekend, and most of them were all done last night, and then just like a smidge this morning, just tells you how good both of these are because I couldn't stop reading them. Also, I'm just in a romance mood. That kind of helps. But The Right Move, you get all of the wonderful fake dating, forced proximity, roommates elements. I love forced proximities. So not only do you have fake dating, you also have them being roommates, and it's good. I'm a fan, clearly. Ryan Shea is very much so the guy that is, and it's addressed many times in the book, he's the quiet love kind of guy. Like, he is the guy that just takes care of her. Without spoiling things, she's a vegetarian and she also prefers iced coffee, so he always makes sure that she has iced coffee and meatless options. vegetarian option. I won't make the joke. Anyways, he's just a caretaker and he takes care of her, and I love that. That is one of my favorite, arguably a microtrope. Is it technically a microtrope? I don't know. It's one of my favorite things in books when caretaking occurs, just because they see another person and when they go out of their way to remember small details and then follow up on those small details. I love it. And if you hear things about this book, chances are you have heard Brian Shea. Anyways, we did have the, I don't know, I feel like I want to wait to get into Caught Up. I really assumed that Caught Up book 3 in the series was going to be my favorite of the 3 books so far. There's going to be a 4th, but I assumed that I would like Caught Up. I like single dad romances. I know what I like. If you like single dad, he's not a single dad whatsoever, but I feel like elements of that are kind of present in this. Anyways, I figured that Caught Up was going to be my favorite of the series. I have met now our male character. He's got some, I'm looking at the copy on my shelf over there, but he has got some big shoes to fill. I love it. This is a solid 5-star for me. It's got every single element that I love. I love forced proximity. This book has every trope that's ever existed, now that I think about it, because you've got not really brother's best friend, but it's Indy's brother. Indy. It's Stevie's best friends. Hold on. I feel like this is a weird Venn diagram of relationships I'm trying to make without it sounding incorrect. Our female main character, her best friend's twin brother. There we go. It's not like so you get some of the like best friend's brother vibes, because Stevie, our female main character from Mile High, basically is watching her best friend and her brother fall in love. So you get to see how she thinks about their relationship, and I love it. So it's very much a different vibe than like your typical brother's best friend, but I loved it. You get to see him with some kids, and so you get like the cute basketball player chilling with kids. There's so many things in this book that I want to say, but I just don't want to say too much, because I feel like with romance books in particular, part of why you like a book so much is when certain elements show up that you know that you like, and like when the male character, I'm not gonna say male character, I do feel like something that I'm trying to be better about is not be like the male character and then the female character, because that's not always the case. It's just like our original counterpart and then their relationship counterpart, which could be plural. I don't know. I read Fucking Ron recently and that was fun too. Anyways, I enjoy seeing how the people in the relationships show up for each other and how they interact. I love that so much, and you get so much interaction between these two characters, because this book she's chunky. It's actually only 400 pages, but it feels like more. I just feel like there's so much that happens in this book, which is awesome. I don't feel like romance novels should be over 500 pages for the most part. I think we can fairly largely agree on that. Apart from Mariana's Zapata, she makes her own rules. But I feel like in this case, it feels like there's so much happening in 400 pages, that there's so much development and so many interactions that the characters have. It's fun. I feel like they both had a dream and they just fit right into each other's dream, and it was great. Anyways, back to what I was saying. I feel like part of the fun of reading romance novels is seeing how these characters show up for each other, and if you talk about how they show up for each other, that takes away some of the fun. So I'm gonna stop with my descriptions of things that occur there, but just trust me. Just trust and think later. I loved Done and Dusted. I think I really was more so in the mood for something like this, so this just hit at the same time. So point being, I found 2 really great books from this poll. So I don't really have any like specific plans I want to read just yet, so I want to keep the vibe going. I just want to poll my Instagram friends and see what they think I should read, because clearly I feel like one of the issues that I have with reading books on my TBR is that I have so many books that I'm so highly anticipating, and then I can't just really decide in between any of them, so then I just don't read them. And I feel like having people tell me which one to do and then I don't have to think about it just sounds like such a great time. So we're going to kick off this reading blog in which my Instagram friends choose what I read for a week. I've seen several different ways to do this, one of which being where people can blindly pick which book you want to read. I want people to actually tell me what to read this time around. I just want people to tell me what to read, specifically from like pick between a couple different books and just tell me what to read. So I have a lot of things on my TBR at the moment, which is so fun. However, I just want people to tell me what I should focus on first because I want to be told what to do. So, quickly scanning across my TBR, I obviously this month want to place a focus on reading books for Ramadan, which I'm so excited. Kicked off yesterday. I watched and did most of the reading sprints last night. I'm a sucker for reading sprints. I love reading sprints, and I'm just so excited to have a whole month where people are just doing reading sprints all the time, basically, and we're all reading together, and there's buddy reads, and it's fun, and I'm so excited. So I have quite a few options of things that I have already selected that I need somebody to tell me where to start. So I think that I want to put Magnolia Parks back on a poll, mostly because, should I do in between? What if I did between Magnolia Parks and Binding 13? I don't know. I feel like I love slow burn. I love slow burn, and that's Binding 13 from what I understand. But I also, Magnolia Parks is also kind of short, and I'm also just in a fast-paced mood at the moment. But also I know that her writing's a little bit slower, so like I feel like those are gonna kind of equal out to be similar things. I feel like that might be an option later on in this week. I don't think that I want to read those immediately. However, I really want to read Dawn of Onyx real bad. I feel like whatever poll I put Dawn of Onyx on, it's going to be very likely to win, which I think is great. But I want to make these polls at least fairly fair. So I'm going to do some research, and I want to get a poll posted so that way I can like get some results in on it so I can have something to read later tonight, I'm thinking. But I also might just read it tomorrow and give the poll like full time to process, and then I can listen to whatever audiobook today and then move along, you know? The vibe is a KU book though. What if I did Feather versus I fully have created the narrative that it's called The Unnamed Witch now, and I can't get that out of my head, unfortunately. The Unbound Witch. There we go. I could do like The Unbound Witch versus Feather. I feel like those are both fairly, not unpopular, but like fairly not super popular books at the moment. So I feel like that would be a good thing to poll against. And then I could do like Bunny Feelings versus maybe like 7 Year Slip. I feel like that's kind of rigged. Caught up, honestly. I don't feel like I have Addicted to You on my TBR. I don't really feel like launching into the Calloway Sisters right now. I'm gonna go between The Unbound Witch and, is that what I want to do? Maybe. I want to read Dawn of Onyx, but I don't want to have it not win, but I also don't want to make it rigged so that it wins. So I'm just going to post that with something and just hope for the best. What do I post it with though? Maybe I do go with Fate Inked in Blood, and then I can pick something else to read on my Kindle. Because I do have the Kindle version of Dawn of Onyx. That could be the vibe. Okay, I'm going to post the poll. I will check in when we have results. I'll let you know what I start reading. I want to post one other poll. I'm not quite sure what I'm thinking yet, but we'll get there. We will check in when I have a book, and I'll probably check in once I started the book. So we'll check in when I have some reading progress for you all. That's probably not, it may or may not be this book, and it may be Dawn of Onyx. I don't know. I feel like that's so fun. That I currently own has just run away. I feel like this is going to be a ponytail kind of afternoon. I also completely overfilled my coffee with ice / creamer. I made my coffee this morning and I completely proceeded to forget that I ever made it, and it was a fun little nice surprise to have a little coffee for lunch. Well, hi friends, it is currently Thursday and I have some updates for you while I get ready for rehearsal this evening. So I think that I cannot with this hair. I'm currently working on day 3 here, and I feel it. So I had just finished The Right Move, and I desperately, and when I say desperately, I mean desperately needed something else to fill that void, in the sense that, like, I obviously knew that what I was going to read next just needed to be completely different. And so I just felt like reading an indie fan realm was just going to be the mood. And also because I'm doing Romathon, I needed to read a book with a white cover and get all my points, because so far I hadn't read one yet. And I honestly couldn't decide between the two which one I wanted to start, because I felt like reading book 2 in a series would be nice, but then also reading something in a new series would also be fun. And the vibes from Feather just seemed like it was going to be so interesting. So doing this weekly vlog has been kind of nice, because I haven't had to make any decisions, and I've just gone with whatever the universe / bookstagram has told me to do, and I kind of enjoy it, like, a lot, actually. So I put it on my stories. The winner of this poll was Feather, which I thought was kind of interesting, because I felt like neither of those books were super popular, or maybe not necessarily not popular, but not hyped at the moment. Like, I just haven't seen, of the people that I follow, either of those books be talked about a whole lot. So I was kind of curious to see which one was going to win. And but I was excited that Feather won, just because I felt like a Parisian mafia man and the angel that tries to save him kind of situation just sounded so interesting. And I just had really high hopes. I was just so excited for the premise of this story, and I had really high expectations. And then I read it, and unfortunately it was not. You start off really from the get-go with some very strong pick-me energy, to the point where she, you know, she's an angel. She's not allowed to have a lot of material items kind of deal, except for her stiletto collection, because no one could take away her love for shoes. But also, she's a romance reader, and she loves romance, and she's just a romantic at heart, and no one can take away her cheesy mortal human books. The other element to this is that, so the whole gag of this story is that she's a guardian angel, basically. But she is a fledgling, meaning that she needs to basically gain all of these points in order to ascend and become an actual, like, immortal angel. So she's one of the only angels in history to have ever not lost any feathers as far long as she's gone without losing any feathers. So she literally is a main character that is technically perfect. Like, she has not done a single thing that's a legitimate sin ever in her life. And you just start off with real pick-me perfection energy, and it doesn't really get better. However, I love the premise. I thought the idea of it was so cool. I loved the structure of the world and, like, the ideas that were happening there to get it to be, like, the storyline what it was. However, the plot didn't really go anywhere other than the romance, and I just felt like that was enough. The other thing, our main male character, Jared, is supposed to be this mafia man who is just, like, the ultimate sinner. But he doesn't ever actually do anything on page to make him be the ultimate sinner. Like, it's not a dark romance, and I think if it was darker and you actually saw some of those elements, it would have been more, like, compelling. Like, it was trying to give you that vibe, but it unfortunately didn't give the vibe, because the vibe was only a vibe, and there wasn't anything on screen of him actually being a Parisian mafia man, which I was just so excited about. And then, not to mention, like, Homegirl is Homegirl is walking through the streets of Paris in her stilettos. Hold on, what else did I write down? I wrote, I do not enjoy putting negative reviews anywhere on my Instagram that, like, stays on my main feed. Like, I'll put it in my stories, and then I'll put it in my highlights or whatever. I feel like that's enough visibility for disappointing things that I personally need. Let's back it up a second. Our female main character, what even was her name? Lay. Okay. There's a lot of verbiage around her name and how it's pronounced. Also, the whole, like, language, her being an American in Paris, it's addressed because, like, she's an angel and she can speak all the languages, but I didn't love the way that that was written, and, like, the structure of the translations and things that occurred. I didn't love that. However, she has got peach, orange, rose gold, copper hair. It's described so many times in so many different ways, but what we aren't confused about is the fact that she hates her hair and she very much so just like talks about her hair color and her wings all the time. Her wings are like the most prized color of wings in this world, so she's literally perfect. And it's talked about how much so she's perfect, and it was a little much. It was a lot much. But like the only plot in this book was the fact that it was a Romeo and Juliet retelling, and that was everything. Like the character development and the plot, that's literally all that everything was. A really cool world and a really cool magic system, if you will. But then, oh, here's the other thing. They fell in love after like 4 days. And by they, I mean her. She was ready to literally lose everything for him and do anything for him after literally just meeting him. And I felt like that fast-pacedness of the story didn't really match the character development that we had seen so far. So I just didn't love that. The pick-me energy was too real. We're trying to build up this dark male character that we didn't really have a lot of actual on-screen context for him actually being dark. And then the ending was what it was. I am glad that I finished it though. There were, like, I will give it some credit. There were some really good lines in this book and some really good scenes that I liked a lot. And so I definitely am glad that I finished it because I felt like it was worth it for some of those moments, but also I read it in like 2 days. It wasn't anything that was necessarily complicated to read, so I would not recommend it. I think if you are literally just there for vibes, you might still like it. However, I won't say that like it's a must read by any stretch of the imagination. But like I gave it 2 stars. I was talking with Tori on Instagram and she absolutely hated it. She also listened to the audiobook, which she hated, so I definitely wouldn't recommend that. And I could see how that would not be the vibe. But just like overall, it was very eh. However, now that we finished it, it means it's time to move on to my next book, which I am very excited about because I posted a reel the other day about books that I'm very much so hoping are going to be worth the hype, and I got a lot of comments of people saying that I needed to read those books, but the comments were pretty split as to which book people were recommending more. So we are doing a poll between The 7-Year Slip and Dawn of Onyx. I have seen so many good things about both of these books. 7-Year Slip, I have heard from both people that read more romantasy and more like contemporary romance. I've seen so many people like both of them, and I feel like I'm ready for something that's emotional and more contemporary at one time, but then at the same time I'm also like I kind of just want a fast paced. So again, I'm glad that I'm doing this poll so I don't have to actually choose between those 2 facets, but I posted it early this morning, and currently 7-Year Slip is winning. It's 59% 7-Year Slip and 41% of Dawn of Onyx at the moment. I'm curious if those numbers are going to change much throughout the day, but I have rehearsal tonight, and then after rehearsal I'm going to pick one of these 2 to start. I do own both of them physically. I was kind of debating getting the 7-Year Slip on my Kindle to read if that is the one that wins. However, I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to get over my little Kindle moment that I'm having and read a physical paperback book. It's a paperback, like that's still fun to read. But I think that just means I won't finish it tonight because I'll have to like deal with the like lights and stuff. It won't be as easy to just like read it later tonight. Assuming that is the one that gets picked. However, I am very excited because I have heard nothing but good things about 7-Year Slip and like the emotional side of it and that whole element. I'm really doing everything very backwards in my little routine here today. Like doing powder after mascara doesn't seem right. Because then what if I get powder all over my mascara as if I'm like packing it on? I feel like with 7-Year Slip, a lot of people like it, but nobody's like specifically been yelling at me to read it. Whereas Dawn of Onyx, I have several people specifically yelling at me to read it because they love it and they feel like I'll love it, which means that I'm probably gonna love it. And I'm very excited for that. But I also just feel like a couple of weeks, I've been really trying to read more of the popular books that I have been anticipating and just getting those actually off of my TBR instead of just like staring at them forever and just thinking about reading them. And I feel like that has made for a lot better of a reading experience at the moment, given that I feel like I don't really know, like I feel like I just read stuff that I want to read, but I then put off the things that I feel like everybody talks about in that moment last, and then I just like, I don't procrastinate, but I feel like I just like to wait a little bit in between finding out about books, and then whenever I finally get a hold of them, I still feel like I wait a little bit longer to read them because I'm busy reading other things and like trying to read more of like my physical TBR and stuff rather than the new stuff. But I'm in a new release moment, and I'm having a very good time reading those books, which I feel like, surprise, surprise, I'm enjoying books that other people enjoy. I wouldn't have thought that either, personally. It's news to me, apparently. So as much of a 2-star as Feather was, I'm glad that I did read it for the sake, I'm getting extra points for Realmathon because it is a white cover and I'm on Team Time, which if you haven't joined Realmathon yet, you still can before the end of March. You don't have to read anything specific technically. The prompts are structured in a way to which literally any book will fit into at least one prompt. And I'm having fun with it. I am obsessed with watching reading sprints, and there's so many reading sprints right now that people are doing. So it's just been fun and I'm enjoying myself. I'm getting to read fun stuff and I'm getting to read books with other people, and I'm just having fun. So anywho, that's everything that I'm up to at the moment. Whoa. I don't feel like there's any saving this here at this point. Like, I feel like it's all up or nothing. She's voluminous. Oh, and I do just want to mention quickly, as much as Feather like wasn't a favorite book of mine, I did really enjoy some of the specific scenes that happened, and there definitely were times that I was having a good time. I definitely enjoyed parts of the romance and certain lines, but putting in certain scenes and certain lines between characters that people widely all know and love doesn't make for a good book, and it doesn't necessarily make for a good romance. And that was my experience with it. However, I do know a lot of people that really loved this book and just had fun with the vibes. The other thing, I felt like some of the decision making in here was not that great. Like, it very much so felt like YA, and we're making YA kind of decisions, like YA age decisions, and then throw in a lot of spice. That's what that book was. But like, so it was definitely fun, and I definitely am glad that I finished it. It wasn't a total loss, and I'm okay with that. Did I cover everything? I think so. Hopefully I did. TTYO. Quick little book haul. I have been, whoa, this hair's not gotten any better as I've sat longer today, unsurprisingly. Anyways, Swift and Saddled. I read Done and Dusted on Friday in preparation. Well, I didn't really read it in preparation for Swift and Saddled to come out on Tuesday. I kind of just read it because I had it on my TBR finally, and just the time felt right. And it just so happened to be just in time for the Tuesday release, which I was very excited about. But then every single day this week, I have wanted to do nothing but just stay at home and read, which has been great because I did obviously finish Feather. However, I was meaning to start this earlier than I did, which I just didn't. I was also debating back and forth if I wanted to just get the Kindle edition of this and then read it. But I just obviously, I got the physical edition. So I want to read the book that I'm going to start later tonight before I start reading this. So I'm probably going to get to it this weekend at some point, but I have it for when I am ready to get into it. We're doing a buddy read on Callie's Discord, which I'm very excited about because I love buddy reads on Callie's Discord. And also, she just announced, I forget what the title is, but the cover for book 3 in this series, which is Teddy and Gus, right? Their story. It's green. It's green. It's green. I love green. Anyways, so I got swept and saddled, and as I was walking around, I told myself that if I just happened to see something else, that would be cool. I was specifically looking for like an indie fan row because my Barnes & Noble, it's pretty big. Like it is a 2-story one because it is connected to our mall, which is fun. However, I feel like we don't often get indie books. So usually when I see them, I try to get them, especially because A, I love buying books in person. B, I want to support the shopper who's thinking, an indie book, maybe I should get that. And C, I'm just bad at shopping online. So seeing a book in person, I'm a million times more prone to actually get it. Anyways, can you tell I'm very excited? I read The Bridge Kingdom, maybe like a year ago. I'd have to go back and look, but a hot minute ago. And I was obsessed. I proceeded to start book 2, but I started it on audio, and I have weird phases in which I like go in and out of wanting to listen to audiobooks. At the time, I just didn't want to listen to an audiobook, even though I was really enjoying the next, The Inadequate Heir. No, that's the 3rd book, The Traitor Queen, duh. But I feel like this series is getting more popular again because A Fate Inked in Blood just came out, so I feel like everybody's now going back and talking about her previous series, which I am not mad at. However, I told myself that if I ever saw this book in person, I would get it, and I just haven't seen it yet. My Barnes happened to have it today, so it was just destined to be. I've wanted to reread it because I really want to go back and finish book 2, and also, this cover is just really, it's a lot prettier in person, I think, than it is online. Like, I'm not a big character person, but the colors of this are just sublime. Anyways, that's the haul that I wasn't really expecting to do today because I have rehearsal here in like now, so I need to go get onto that. But I didn't think I'd have enough time to run my Barnes at any point, but Swift and Saddled, I really wanted to get a hold of it. I feel like tomorrow night I just want to sit and read. Like, I don't really want to go anywhere, but then Saturdays the mall gets so busy. So if I'm specifically looking for something on Saturdays, I usually can get it in and out fairly fast, but at the same time I usually will have to like park way down by some restaurants over here and then walk all the way over to Barnes to actually get in because it is the mall. So I just figured if I could squeeze over here and, pick it up while I still could, because oddly enough, like, I feel like Target and Walmart, neither of them, I could see Walmart not carrying this obviously, but Target not carrying Done and Dusted or Swift and Saddled to me seems a little odd in my brain because I feel like they're more popular now. Also, I live in Texas, so I feel like a cowboy romance would do well here. Thoughts. Anyways, I did want to quickly just shout out, if you have not read Done and Dusted, I obviously would recommend, but if you're someone who's not read any cowboy romance and you're looking to kind of dip your toes in the water, I would fully recommend this. I would say this series. I haven't read book 2 obviously, so I would recommend book 1 at least. That may change once I actually, read book 2, but for sure I would recommend Done and Dusted. It definitely is less like horse girl romance, like my favorite blessed, beautiful, lovely, everything amazing Elsie Silver books tend to be. This is more like small town in a bar under neon lights kind of situation rather than like horse girl romance, even though she is a barrel racer. Like, it doesn't really, like, it comes up, it's kind of something that they do together rather than about her connection with horses. So it seems as more of like a fun activity they do rather than being a horse girl romance, Nothing wrong with horse girl romance because obviously I love me some Gold Rush Ranch. However, I do find that is more approachable for a first time cowboy romance reader. So, there's my plugs for both Done and Dusted, cowboy romance at large. Truthfully, mostly Done and Dusted, and also The Bridge Kingdom. This is so good, and I'm so thrilled, so beyond thrilled to have the physical copy, but also I really want to reread this and then get back into why do I keep thinking Inadequate Heir? The Traitor Queen. Wow. Also, update, I did just check a few minutes ago, the 7-year slip is definitely still winning, so I'm definitely going to start that tonight, which I'm excited. Will I start that tonight? Do I feel like reading today? I don't know. So I'm sitting in the parking lot, right? There's a dog in a car, and he's so cute. I would show you. It's a big bulldog, but there's definitely somebody in the car with them, so I don't feel like me videoing someone in their car is very normal or appropriate. Anyways, that's all for now. TTYL. Oh, she is brighter than my future. Hi friends, happy Saturday. I just spent literally the entire Saturday chilling at a coffee shop, which was so fun, but I was trying to edit my Mariana Zapata tier ranking video, and it took surprisingly longer than I thought it might, but then I kept getting distracted, and that was the whole reason it kept taking longer, just because I kept getting distracted. But I started looking at starting, or not really starting, well, I think I'd be okay with starting, but joining an in-person book club. I keep seeing, wow, that's very, there's no amount of bright, is that kind of, no, absolutely doesn't help. Does it? If I can just sit over here. Okay. I keep seeing people post about being in an in-person book club, and I have wanted to join one for a very long time. I have searched online for a very long time for one, and I just haven't found one already existing, but also I just don't know a lot of people here locally that read at all, much less would want to do a book club. Well, that solved all my problems. Sorry, I have this car freshener, and it's just very large and in charge. I feel like of the book clubs that I have seen online, they're typically either literary fiction or like historical fiction, or just things I'm not necessarily interested in reading at the moment. So I did finally make a post in one of the groups that I'm a member of, asking if anyone knew of any book clubs that are existing, or if anyone would want. I wouldn't mind starting one, and I wouldn't mind hosting one, but I just don't know of anybody who would want to do one in like the more fantasy romance specific books. Anyways, so I kept getting distracted rather than actually editing my video. So I have a little bit left to edit, but also my iPad completely died, and I brought my backup charger, and the charger's dead, so that helps no one. But most of all me. Anyways, last night I sat down, and I, within one sitting, finished a 7-Year Slip. I was not prepared to read it so fast, because I have heard that the writing in this, like, I say have heard as if I haven't already finished the book. Going into the book, I had heard that the writing was a lot more romantic, if you will, but also more just like pretty. It's the kind of writing that you don't necessarily just blow through really quickly. Like, you kind of want to take your time with the pretty words that are happening. And I felt like I did, but I also just couldn't stop reading it. So I did finish it last night, and I'm giving it a 4-star. It wasn't a completely perfect book for me. I feel like this specific couple isn't a couple that I'm going to think about on repeat, and that's what earns the 5-star mark in my head. However, it was really good. There was a lot of really cool elements to it. So to give you the quick summary of what this book is about, even though I'm pretty sure you've probably heard of this book so far, it takes place in New York City. So Clementine's aunt has just passed and left her New York City apartment, and kind of gave her the warning that it's magical, but she didn't believe her, because who would, right? So she shows up in this apartment, she moves in, and then a guy shows up, and come to find out, he was supposed to be subletting from her aunt, but he is 7 years in the past. Her aunt had a rule that she had always taught. Clementine, do you teach rules? She gave the rule. There we go. She always gave her aunt this rule. Her aunt always gave her this rule that she couldn't fall in love in the apartment. And you find out a little bit more why, but Clementine basically sees this guy and was like, please get out of the apartment. So she kicks him out, but then he ends up forgetting his toothbrush, so he comes back for his toothbrush, and they end up having dinner together. And it's very much so Clementine figuring out her life and like what she wants from her life, and dealing with the loss of her aunt, while at the same time falling in love with this guy who happens to be living 7 years in the past. So it just kind of goes from there. Whenever you think of a romance book, I feel like this is what you ideally think of, given that all of the writing is very just poetic and beautiful and romantic, for lack of a better word. This is very much so this book. There are so many quotes and so many very pivotal moments that are mentioned in this book that just like keep coming up, and I think because this book comes so full circle in so many places, I think that really reflects the idea of timing that this book has and addresses. So I really liked it. I felt like the couple themselves, I didn't just like love. However, I liked it a lot, and I'm glad that I read it. I feel like this was a book that I very much so was intimidated by because so many people had read it. I started at like 9 and I finished by midnight, so like I read it pretty quickly, and I feel like I was having a weird time reading this book, and the fact that I think I really just wanted to read Dawn of Onyx, and I just kept thinking about wanting to, I don't know, it's just in more of like a fast-paced fantasy mood. So the first like couple of chapters I felt like I was reading, but I wasn't just internalizing, and because the whole time I was thinking about other things, but then I got sucked in and I couldn't stop. So I felt like if I had read this book and started it maybe when I was at a bit, I don't know, when it was just like the right timing. This book is literally all about timing, and here I am talking about how this might have been right book, wrong time. I will appreciate the irony for both of us. I feel like if I had read this when I was a bit more so in the mood for it, I might have liked it more. However, I'm so glad that I finally picked it up after having it on my TBR for so long and seeing so many people talk about it and so many people just rave and rant and love this book. I'm glad that I can finally join the crew of people who rant and rave and love this book. So, like I said, I'm giving it a 4-star, but like a really high 4-star. Like maybe like for probably a 4, well, I feel like I can definitely objectively see why this book is so highly ranked by so many people. I feel like while this book wasn't completely for me specifically, not all of the lines completely hit with me. It's like they hit, but they didn't just like settle. Do you know what I mean? Does that make any sense at all? But I definitely did love it, and I'm glad that it's finally off my physical TBR. I can put it on my red shelf. I don't have to keep staring at it, wondering when I'm finally going to get to it. And yeah, I had a great time. But a quick little audiobook update. I touched in the beginning of this vlog that I was starting. Well, I wasn't really starting. I was continuing The Well of Ascension. And I have made very, very limited progress on that book. I think I'm somewhere just over halfway. And I definitely don't want to DNF it, but I think because I own the audiobook and I know that I like have as much time as I want to take to go back and listen to it on Audible, I feel like I'm taking advantage of all of that time. I also feel like the beginning of it's just been kind of slow. Like I'm waiting for the action, and I know that Brandon Sanderson is very famous for the Sanderslanch and Sanderslanch? Avalanche? Sanderslanch? Is that right? Is that even how that's pronounced? I don't know. He's very famous for very slow in the beginning that just builds and falls apart and down on top of you at the end. And I am just waiting for more of that to develop, we'll say. But overall, I feel like I've seen a lot of people say very mixed things about his books in terms of like which one is his favorite. And I feel like Mistborn won't be my favorite just because I'm reading it on audio, and I feel like for some reason I just didn't emotionally connect with these characters as much as I might have needed to be able to be as obsessed with this book as some other people tend to be. So I feel like I want to finish out this audiobook, but then whenever I read, I definitely still want to read Hero of Ages, but when I read it, I think I want to read probably the ebook version of it. Yeah, I think, I don't know, I go in and out of phases with audiobooks, and I'm just, like, it's not the phases, but it's just, like, the turning, like, clicking the play button and turning on, and, like, actually sitting down to listen to it. But I've also just been in such a Kindle indie fan row moment that, honestly, it's just not having any chance right now, so we'll come back to it eventually. I definitely don't want to DNF it. I'm just gonna like really slowly keep that going on in the background, and I feel like that's a good strategy for me because then like I have something ready to go at all times and I don't have to like start something new. But I've done that same thing with a lot of the audiobooks that I've listened to recently, where I'll start it and then I'll just kind of trail off and then not pick it up again. And I don't know why that is. I think it's because I don't like listen to music very often. I don't listen to audiobooks very often either because I feel like I really like the visual stimulation. If I'm sitting and folding laundry or something, like I want to watch something while I do that. I don't want to just listen. Like I I need my eyeballs to be engaged at all times, preferably. So I just like watch a lot of booktube and stuff, but it's funny because I don't watch a lot of TV either. All of that to say, I haven't made any progress on the Well of Ascension. Yeah, I'm like, was it even the book that I'm reading right now? Is it Hero of Ages? I don't even... I'm gonna stop questioning everything and go ahead and close out this vlog. Also, I did wear my This Is the Skin of a Killer Ballad t-shirt because it was very foggy and like cloudy and overcast and gross this morning, and I just felt like there is no greater time than that kind of weather to wear a Twilight t-shirt. It was like 40 degrees when I left the house this morning at like 11 or so, and it's now almost 62 degrees, and sitting in my car without it being on is very hot. So quick little recap on this week. I feel like I thought it was so convenient to not have to actually debate between two books. Like, it was so nice to be able to put up a poll and let somebody else tell me which of the two options I was going to choose, and then I didn't have to think about it and I didn't have to debate about it, and I felt like I sat down and actually started reading so much faster by kind of taking away my indecision from that equation. And I feel like I just had a lot of good times. Also, it was interesting to me to see what I thought was going to win in several cases didn't necessarily win. I had really a great time reading this week. I'm very fortunate. I feel like I've had some really, other than Feather, but there were certain parts of Feather that I really liked. I was gonna say I've had really great, no, I feel like I've had a really great couple of reading weeks. The last several books that I've read have been good, and I'm just enjoying reading at the moment. I just feel like I'm having a great time in my little reader era, and I am glad you joined me on this journey. Thank you for everyone who voted in my Instagram polls. I definitely got some really good reads out of this week that I can't wait to go and annotate. I feel like this book is going to hit especially hard on a reread. There were certain moments in which, as I'm trying to conclude and I go back and continue to talk about this book, there were certain moments in this book that really came full circle, and I loved how circular this book was in a good way. Like, I just felt like things were popping up and reveals happened. There are certain moments in which the reader was not told what was going on, but you definitely knew that was going on. And these just like little hints here and there, I thought that was done really well. It sort of gave dramatic irony without being annoying, like another book I've recently read that I won't really go into. I keep seeing really good things about When the Moon Hatched, and I keep rethinking how much I liked it. Like, I remember liking it. Like, the more that I think back, like, I liked it. I just took forever to read it, and having that like separation on it, anyways, thank you so much for watching. Thank you if you voted in my Instagram poll. I definitely enjoyed not having to make any big decisions this week, honestly. Like, I felt like I could just kind of sit back and vibe and just read, and I felt like that was fun, and it helped put the focus on actually sitting down and reading rather than having to think through what I was going to be reading next. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your week. If it's Saturday for you, like it currently is for me, I hope you have a great Saturday. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.